Good morning. Good day. How are you all doing? Hope you're doing great today. It's bright blue sky outside my room. I hope everybody is having a great day so far. So far in this series, we have talked about uh, quantitative data, qualitative data, how to collect data through sampling. Now we are starting to discuss how will we display our data, what type of charts we can make. So you may have always wondered, we collect all this information, such as suppose in my college, I want to find out the proportions of freshmen, sophomore, junior, and senior, and that is, I collect a simple random sample of say 100 students from the college campus, and I want to survey those 100 students, how many of them freshmen, sophomore, junior, senior. So I categorized the students into four categories depending on their class, whether they're freshman students, sophomore students, junior, and senior. So four categories of students. How will I display my data? I collect information from my sample. How will I display my data? You have any idea? Well, I didn't have any idea before I started this chapter. So let's take a look. So, as I said, we have categorical or non-numerical data or qualitative data, categories of students, four categories in my campus: freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. I have collected information from my sample. I want to display that data so that people can take a look at the data and come to some conclusion. That is the whole idea. So before I get started, I would like to say that please do not quit halfway through. This is not a very long presentation at all. So please hold on. I'll complete it as soon as possible, slowly but surely. And please subscribe to my channel by hitting the red subscribe button. And at that time, please do not forget to click on the notify bell button. That will notify you every time I upload a new video. So today we are going to talk about how to display the categorical or non-quantitative data, qualitative data, basically categorical data that we have collected. How will I display it so that people can look at charts and make some conclusion? Categorical data can be summarized in a frequency distribution and displayed using a bar chart. Now, the question is, what is a bar chart? Well, you have categories like freshman, sophomore, junior, senior on the horizontal axis, four categories of students. On the verticals axis, you have the count or the frequency. So you have a bar for each category. Okay. The height of the bar is the count in your sample. So count or the frequency. That type of chart is called frequency distribution, and bar chart, it's called a bar chart because each category is represented by a vertical bar. Bar charts can be used to give a visual comparison of two or more groups. This is accomplished by constructing two or more bar charts that use the same set of horizontal and vertical axes. Remember, always on the horizontal axis, the categories, on the vertical axis, counts or frequency, heights of the bars tell you the frequency in each category. So here is they're looking at do people with college degrees think that their education was worth the cost? The question was posted to 2,548 adults with an associate degree and to 30,151 adults with a bachelor's degree. The data from the Gallup poll report 2-year grad satisfied with cost of degree is as below. Okay, so there are four categories of response. I mean, no, one, two, three, four, five. Five categories of response. On the rows, starts with strongly disagree, then disagree, neither agree nor disagree, agree, and strongly agree. So this is in the first column. Five categories of response. And then you have the second column for associate degree holders, responses in each category. Third column is bachelor's degree holders, and again responses in each category. The last row, which is in bold, is the total number of students in each associate degree and bachelor's degree. Now, since our total sample size for the associate degree is only 2,548, whereas for bachelor's degree the total is 30,151. In order to compare between the responses in the different categories, five different categories between the associate degree and the bachelor's degree, we convert the responses, individual responses in each category to a relative frequency. Remember, relative frequency is the count in each class or frequency in each class divided by the total count, which for associate degree is 2,548 and for bachelor's degree is 30,151. So point to note, please note this point. We convert the data into relative frequency or proportion so that we can compare between the associate degree and the bachelor's degree holders in the different categories of response. This will give you the percentage of the total in each category of response. Okay. So generally, look at the different categories, they're about the same in the associate degree holders and the bachelor's degree holders. Not much difference except in the bachelor's degree holder. If you look at the agree category, the relative frequency is 29%, whereas for the associate degree holders, the relative frequency is 25% or 0.25. Slight bit of difference, and also slight bit of difference in neither agree nor disagree. So now we can make a bar chart and compare the difference in the heights of the bars or relative heights of the bars in this case, in each case will be the relative frequency in each category of response between associate degree and bachelor's degree. So your goal is to compare the relative frequency of response in each class, in each category of response between associate degree holders and bachelor's degree holders, as you will see. Okay. So here it is. Okay. So you are looking at the heights of each bar. The blue is for associate, the red is for bachelors. And as I told you before, there is not much difference in the heights of the bars between blue and red. They're about the same. Remember, the heights of the bar represent the relative frequency or proportion in each class. As you can see, the heights of the bars are highest for the strongly agree category of response, both for associate degree and for bachelor's degree. The lowest height of the bars are in the strongly disagree category between both in associate degree and in bachelor's degree. What is the message from here? The message is most students with an associate degree or a bachelor's degree think that education, or strongly agree with the statement that education is important. Okay. Relative frequencies compare groups of different sizes accurately, unlike the incorrect. So, as I told you, you cannot compare the associate degree with the bachelor's degree if you just took the frequency by itself. That is the height of the bar, in this case, or just the frequency or count in each class. Why you cannot do that? As I told you, because the sample size, in total sample size for the associate degree and the bachelor's degree, they're totally different. So the best is to convert them to relative frequency information like we did in the previous slide. Then we can compare the heights of each bars in each category of response between blue and red, blue being associate, red being bachelors. So this is the what we want to see in our bar charts, not this, because here we are doing frequencies on the vertical axis, not relative frequency. So another way of representing the data is a pie chart. Pie, as the name suggests, is a full circle, like a pizza pie, and then it is divided into sectors. Each sector will be proportion to the relative frequency of each class. Why would you prefer pie chart over bar chart? Because pie chart is more visually appealing because you look at the width or area of each sector. Remember, each sector is the category of response in this case. You look at the area of each sector and compare between, say, the associate degree and the bachelor's degree. Here in this slide, they go through the details of making a pie chart using a formula and everything. In today's world, we do not use this kind of formula. We use Excel. We enter the data in Excel. After entering the different categories of response in Excel, the total numbers in each category, then we will highlight the table and insert a pie chart. Excel will automatically make a pie chart or a pizza pie with different sectors, and the sectors have different width areas depending on the proportion relative frequency. So here it is. They're talking about typos in resume. If you have typing mistake, how much can you afford? How many typing mistake can you afford before your resume gets rejected? And they look at a sample of data, okay, and they asked executives whether or not you will look at a resume if it has one typo mistake, two typing mistake, three typos, four typos, or more. And they converted the data into relative frequency. Again, for your information, relative frequency is the frequency of each class divided by sum of the total frequencies, and it shows the percentage or proportion in each class. So they're showing you how to make the pie chart. Again, basically the area of each sector, say the blue is a sector, is proportion to its relative frequency. So how do you do that? Basically, in earlier times when Excel was not available, they will calculate the area of each sector by measuring the central angle at the center, which is shown by the arrow. This is equal to relative frequency multiplied by area in the, angle in the center, which is 360 degree. So whatever the relative frequency of each category, multiply that by 360 degree. Why 360 degree? Because that is the area in the center of a circle, okay? Center of a circle, angle is 360 degree. Multiply that by relative frequency of each class. So nowadays we use statistical software such as Excel, and it clearly shows you the areas of the different sectors or different categories of response. Highest category or highest area is in one typo. 40% of the executives would reject a resume if there's just one typo. And then 36% of the executives they interviewed will reject a resume if there are two typos. So between these two classes, the sector for one, dark blue, sector for two typos, light blue, 40% plus 36% is 76%. So right off the bat, you know that if you have 40 plus 30, 76% of the resumes are rejected if there are one or two mistakes, typo mistakes. Okay. Challenges with pie chart, difficult to construct manually. We are not going to construct them manually. We are going to use Excel. Suppose you still want to make a bar chart. You can make segmented bar chart. What is segmented bar chart? You're wondering why suddenly segmented bar chart? because it will carry the same information, or it will convey the same information to the public as a bar, as a pie chart. Sometimes it is easy to I mean, easy to construct, easy to communicate the message. So here you go. So they're looking at uh, what are they looking at? Cheating in online courses. So the in 2020, most college students were taking courses online due to COVID-19. Summarized data from a survey of 2,000 college students conducted in May of 2021. The accompanying relative frequency table summarizes uh, the question. To your knowledge, how prevalent is cheating? And there have one, two, three, four, five, six categories of response horizontally. First one being extremely common category, then somewhat common. These are talking about cheating in online classes. Somewhat uncommon, extremely common. I'm not sure. I'm not taking any online courses. So as you see, the first two categories as the highest relative frequency if you add them up. So most students are thinking there is cheating going on online, extremely common or somewhat common. And you can make a segmented bar chart. What is a segmented? The total segment of the uh, bar chart, the total width in this case is 1. Why? Because everything adds up to 1. The relative frequency in each class, if you add them up, the last column in this table, it will add up to 1. So 1 is the sum of all relative frequencies, and you then divide it into different categories, as will be done over here. That's it. So the total width of the bar or length of the bar, if you say it's 1, then it is divided into categories depending on the length or the relative frequency of each category. Okay. So it's called a segmented because there is one response, category of response on top of, or each of these responses are sitting on top of one another. So for example, the first one is blue, is extremely common. The second one is purple, is extreme, somewhat common. So as we discussed before, these two categories of response are the most common. You add the relative frequencies close to 50%, the thing that cheating going on. Okay. And here there's something else. Let me not go into this. Okay. They're looking at college tuition. Okay, they're looking at the college tuition. There are three categories of college: private, public out of state, and public in state, and looking at average tuition and fees. So the heights of each bar, this is like a bar chart, heights of each bar is equivalent to the tuition, average tuition and fees. From this, what message is conveyed? That is most important. That the most common, the most highest is for private college. Somewhere in between is public out of state, and the lowest tuition and fees is in public in-state college. So the point to note: height of each bar is equal to the average tuition and fees. So the vertical axis is average tuition and fees. Again, you can use Excel to do this type of chart. So here is a graph. Okay, average tuition and fees. They're looking at stacks of dollar bills. Okay, as a typical infographic appear in the media, they have made the bar chart more interesting. So the heights of the bars are represented by layers of dollars figures. Okay. We cannot make this chart using Excel. More likely, we can make a chart like this using Excel. Again, we enter the data in two columns. One column, just like what is in the table over here. One column is type of college. The other column is the vertical information, average tuition and fee. So we have two columns and three rows, and we highlight, or four rows, highlight the table, insert a bar chart. It will insert a bar chart like this. Excel, in a second, you can do it. Okay. Again, they're looking at infographics from, you know, from newspaper and a comparative bar chart. What is my idea? What is my feeling? I think the bar chart conveys more information, relevant information easily than this stacked up dollar bills. Okay. So today we are going to stop here. What did we cover? First, we covered bar chart, relative frequency on the vertical axis, categories on the data. Also, we talked about why we need to convert the bar chart, the data into relative frequency, because if you're comparing two groups of data, if we convert each category into relative frequency, then we will be able to compare two groups of data. Remember, whether students from associate degree and bachelor's degree, they were surveyed depending on whether they thought education is necessary for good paying job, I should say. And because the total sample size for associate degree was smaller than that for the students with bachelor's degree, we had to convert each category of response in the associate degree students into relative frequency. Same, we converted each category of response in students with bachelor's degree into relative frequency. When we converted the data into relative frequency, we can compare between associate degree holders and bachelor's degree holders. We could not do so with regular frequency because the total number of students surveyed in the bachelor's degree and associate degree, they're totally different. And then we talked about pie chart. Take a pizza pie and divide it into into sectors. Area of each sector is proportional to relative frequency. We also discussed about how to do it with Excel. They also showed us the formula that you will use to calculate the central angle of each sector. Each sector represents each category of response, for example. So you take the relative frequency and multiply it by the area in the center, which is 360 degrees. Do we do it this way? No. We use again, Excel. Make the table, highlight the table, insert a pie chart. It will automatically, Excel will make a pie chart for you. So I stop here today. If you like my video, please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. And please share this video with your friends. I appreciate that if you like it. And please subscribe to my channel by hitting the red subscribe button. I'm back every day. So please do not forget to watch me tomorrow when I'll be showing you another interesting video. Thanks for taking the time to stop by and watch my video. Take care. And please let me know where you are watching this video. And please give me thumbs up. That really motivates me to do more video. Okay. And I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Have a nice day.